I'm going to get started here just talking about mentoring and finding a mentor and the value of that in our community here, the Drupal community. So let's see here. The best engineers are mentors. They are, right? Because honestly, being a mentor helps you speak about what you do to others, right? And hearing that often helps one verbalize some of the fundamentals, which we sometimes get out of touch with in our daily work. As we're focusing on the next thing, sometimes we may forget that people don't always know all the things that we do. So, we need to be continually avoiding making assumptions. And I think that's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest fundamentals that I think is important to keep top of mind. So a little bit about me. I have been in the web business as long as there's been a web, almost. So I remember things like Netscape and stuff. So that dates me, right? I started in digital strategy and networking at a company called AT&T, and started my own web firm then, and really felt a lot of pain from the lack of modular development out there in the marketplace. So when I heard about something called Drupal in around 2010, 29, Drupal 5, just on the cusp of Drupal 6, I got started, trying to poke the tires and see what's going on. And inevitably, I launched another product that helped me get to a level of mastery that people wanted to hire me for what I did with Drupal. So I started a firm in 2011 called Celebrate Drupal, did a lot of state and federal government work. And that availed me to a lot of different experience along the way. It was an agency and still is an agency. So we needed contractors. And so we formed a platform that over the years grew to be one of the largest suppliers, probably the largest supplier of Drupal contract talent. And that really helped us immerse in the career of many, right? That's something where we realized that we needed to help people that were not only on the beginning of their career journey, but that might be, 20 plus years in and require some pointers and or refinement, to their skill to be able to get on the best projects and stay on the best projects once they get there. In 2009, we formed Esteemed, and that was in response to doing what we do beyond Drupal into other more progressive worlds that are exploding out there, like JavaScript and the mean stack and MERN stack, et cetera. And so Esteemed is growing by leaps and bounds and just doing well. And really what that comes down to is a couple of different things, which effectively is listening and actually understand what people do and being able to therefore send the folks that are looking for that talent their way, rather than them having to sort through a bunch of people that kind of don't really know what they do and sort of are sending, just anybody that might work to them, which we all know, most of us are probably finding opportunities, especially if we have experience. And therefore, it's about finding that right opportunity, right, for our stage of career and our interests, which as engineers can become, fairly nebulous and detailed. So, the next part about why Esteemed is becoming more and more successful all the time is because we're about talent incubation. Right, we always noticed in the beginning with Drupal contractors that, and even at talks at camps, Atlanta, we've been on panels with the Drupal Association, et cetera. The main, one of the main issues facing this product is a deficit of talent. And therefore, it really requires a focus on talent incubation. What is that? Really a large part of it is mentoring and experience and trying to create projects, if you don't have them, that would be low risk for folks that are on the newer side of things, trying to connect with other incubation sources. One of our strong partners is Mike Anello and Drupal Easy. He's always been, a very integral part of growing folks in the newbie side of Drupal development. and is helpful in every way. We have Mike helping out folks that are seasoned developers, getting them in touch with some new developments and so on, and even things that aren't so new that maybe they haven't had a chance to explore. So talent incubation, looking at different types of that, what is it? I mean, we're looking for people that are coaches. Hey, don't say this, do say that. Make sure you're setting expectations. Why is it that, someone's chasing after you? They don't know where you are. Oh, you didn't know this, you didn't know that. Stop and think, right? So people that can help you remind, one of things they may already know, as well as trying to help them achieve on a playing field. Really, I can't help with sports analogies, even though I'm not really a huge sports person or anything. But it is almost like that, an athletic event, if you will, I know, to be a top performing developer. And, that's something that I think does take some training, not only on the technical side of things, but on the soft skill side of things, especially if you're in business for yourself as a freelancer. It also takes some advice sometimes as to, what should I be doing? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I take on this next role? How much should I layer to be prepared for the next opportunity that, my contract is ending, may end, will leave me without an income, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of these things, they're constantly plaguing the minds of people that are, working in that way. Yet, certainly, I've given other talks that would illustrate that is certainly the way to make the most money in this business. There's no question about it. To be a freelancer and continually grow your level of popularity, and therefore being able to charge higher and higher rates and get on more and more interesting projects to catapult to the next. And that all starts somewhere, right? We have people that are out there now working on these projects. We were just chatting with Rick Torzinski here about Department of Homeland Security, Department of Information Services, Justice, Interior, a lot of these major projects. And folks, they started just under us doing low level things that proved to us that they would be capable of taking on more and more. But I remember some of those folks, we'd have to remind them to check their calendars so that they showed up at meetings, but they could sure code up some back end Drupal. So that's what mattered ultimately. It's about sort of supplementing those skills that are lacking for some people that are incredibly talented in other areas sometimes. So mentoring, what is it? I know, I'm always some of these old adages, like necessity, need drives necessity, right? So, if you have a need, you're going to look to fill it. And I know that, in the beginning, when I was building a business from scratch, I really had a need, right? I still have needs every single day because we created a business around having a need. But one of the original needs that we had were young people that we could rely on, and, really offer opportunities, because that's what every business requires, right? We can have plenty of old dogs around, with gray hair that, can lead and do complex operations. But on the other hand, and they're in a whole class by themselves as to, how they might benefit from skill supplementation. But on the other hand, the people that are the doers, the worker bees, are really the folks that are going to come up with, some foundational education to be out there, be able to get out there and roll out the project, actually carry out the bulk of the tasks. And so, really it's about getting out there and finding people who can I get these recommendations from, and certainly camps like this are a huge part of it. I mean, I'd say that most of the people that I have ever found that, blossomed from that meeting were from a camp, related to some sort of camp organizer in some way or another, from maybe my alma mater, and it was a Drupal user, Evergreen State College. Woohoo! And just finding people that you could say you could trust. You could trust their mentor, whether that be a professor or again just a formal mentor that the mentee had found in their technical community. and in this case, Drupal. Because yeah, I have pretty much been heads down here for about a decade with Drupal, and thus come about to the place where, you know, I effectively had to take it in upon myself to help with the talent incubation out there. Because just really there's like hardly, you know, really not enough people. And so it was almost like there's no choice but to do this. How do we do it? And, you know, that really is a one-on-one situation where, you know, you're going to find somebody, you're going to try to get a testimonial from someone that you trust to some degree, and then, you know, go from there to try to give them some opportunities to prove their worth, and then, you know, continue to do that in a progressive way. And so, you know, this is kind of where it all comes down to that back and forth. You know, what you know, trust is built on a continual basis in my experience, right? So you're literally getting down in the trenches with these people. I've definitely repeatedly found that, and you know, young people will know more than I do in certain cases about some, you know, newer operation, et cetera. And that is also the beauty and the harmony of things where, you know, I mean, I know how to put together a project. I know, you know, the estimation to launch, you know, and everything in between that most likely will patternistically arise. So I'm going to keep my eyes open for that. But do I know, you know, the best mix in for this, or, you know, the best method for that? Not always. So it's nice to be able to provide that structure and allow people to excel, you know, in the areas that they do, while absorbing that structural process and becoming, you know, more and more experienced and adept at what they do. So here, you know, there are a couple different kinds of mentorship, I think. I mean, something that's happening on the job in a real, you know, informal way. Hey, I think I might do this, I might do that. What do you think about this? You know, do you know anything about this particular thing? Because I've never heard of it, you know, and as I say, I'm usually continually surprised at the things that folks know that I don't, which, you know, again, is that give and take of being a mentor. And again, you know, paving the way often is what you're doing for your mentee on a project, should you be, you know, to do so. Formal, we set up programs, other people do, you know, we know certainly there's plenty of agencies, media and things like that, that folks like that, scout at universities or code camps, things like that, and actually introduce a formal program, whether, you know, 8, 16 weeks. My former employer, Accenture, does the same thing for Drupal. You know, they have like a Drupal university. And, you know, this can be great. I mean, it's certainly actually one of the only ways one can get, you know, a formal educational experience where you're actually dealing with a project. You know, you're going to learn about what that project requires and the requirements there, and actually be able to practice your craft, you know, with Drupal and modular development. And that's, you know, a unique experience. You really need a roadmap there. And, you know, that's going to be a little bit different here than the informal side of things. Here's a couple different sort of forms and titles that, you know, the mentoring structure puts on things. And I think that's definitely, you know, I feel like at times, sometimes my mentees have become my anchor, you know, out there, and some of the folks that are still, you know, at my right and left, out there delivering, you know, and it's really something that brings a sense of pride to someone like myself, you know, to just say, hey, you know, what I do is in stride. You know, I mean, I'm a business, you know, we have a business, and we need to find more customers for it, and we need to find talented individuals to deliver. And so, you know, that's where the anchor comes in. I think that often, you know, folks will be like, oh, you know, darn it, this happened, that happened. You know, do people, yesterday someone said to me, you know, do employers normally just go to the manager and never share their frustrations with the individual? And I said, unfortunately, that is common. I don't think it's practical or productive necessarily, but unfortunately, you know, it is. And so, you know, at least for me to be like, yeah, you know, you're not special. It happens to the best of us. That's a management style that some people choose, you know, that put them at ease. that was something where they could feel like, okay, I can just get back to it and we'll do better with the next one, And so, to find that to also, same individual. I mean, I had to stand up for something that I know that I brought to the fold. And, I had to say, hey, this guy might be one of those people that, you can't get in touch with sometimes, or, isn't sort of on the spot with every single response, et cetera. But know their craft, and they know their craft as well as, addition add-ons to the craft, which, is something to be said for people that, let's just take the example of, say, Drupal, and then Drupal commerce, for example. This is not something that like grows on trees. You have to take the good with the bad and try to work with that person, right? Try to state that they are valuable, that, you don't want to be fickle with these people, for lack of a better word, and you want to try to build on what you have, should that be possible. Obviously, at times there really is no helping people. They, will do what they do. But on the other hand, there are opportunities to help people that will listen and, want to improve themselves on a regular basis, even though maybe they've been in the business for, 10 plus years. So, here, someone to inspire. I think that, seniority, as far as the sort of, I was going to say, as far as the delta between junior and senior, I would say, one inspires the other. The junior inspires the senior to see, as I say, some of the things that we just don't know, we forget, we haven't seen in a while, and just the energy of youth, et cetera, I think is inspiring. And then, of course, vice versa, the seniority of experience, et cetera. You kind of know where the landmines are going to be. Hopefully you're there to kind of watch out for that person. And I think that dovetails with the partner below. I certainly have a couple of very important, dominant partners in my business, and esteemed, and, as well as, more junior folks, and also partners. And it's, every single one of them are highly valuable relationships in my life, very intrinsic relationships. And, to the point where they are, family comes first, but they're certainly second. And so I think that that's indicative, this is powers my ability to be out there and, creating something. And that's important for me and for others, that are out there, whether you're creating this module, whether you're creating this presentation, to win over stakeholders, et cetera. It's important to have a second pair of eyes and, essentially a support system, as opposed to, just kind of going it alone. So as far as a perfect storm, mentorship, it's a relationship. As I just said, I guess I get ahead of myself on these slides, but really what it comes down to is that, right? You're not going to be inspired. I'd say, most of the people here aren't in a position where they're going to be like, oh boy, I really need that money, for my mentoring. No, I don't think so. I think it's more like we're going to be doing that out of some other motivation, similar to myself, where we're looking to recruit talent, cultivate talent, get them out there on projects. But on the other hand, this is a relationship. I can't obviously be a champion, as we saw on the last slide, for anyone, that I can't feel comfortable with, that I can't feel that I can advocate for and say, hey, I've had people come to me and they're like, are you kidding me? This person's in charge? I'm like, well, believe me, if they may look young, but if I did not believe in them wholeheartedly and know that they could do this job, they would not be sitting in front of you. And lo and behold, this says rung true. Luckily, I guess I'm a decent judge of character on that front. And that's what being, a manager and a principal is all about, right? To stand up to those folks, be that champion and say, you don't know how lucky you are to have this person sitting in front of you, despite whether or not, you think they look like, your 16-year-old's friend or something. I don't know. So I think that it's all about like really understanding what are the mutual benefits, right, to everyone here. And I know as the mentor for me, and I really, don't get to do it enough as I would like, especially now that, I'm moving more into management every day. It's really my small circle of reports that I mentor. But the other thing that I think is very fulfilling is that we are actually growing a mentoring community. And I used to be involved in this in the Drupal 7 world with Build a Module and Chris Shattuck, and trying to help cultivate that business with his mentoring network. And it's something that I really have tried to carry forward to Drupal 8 with Esteemed, and we're excited to continue to do that, on a more formal basis. We do it, in a more informal base, on a more informal basis now. Some formal, a mix of both, but I think that we know more and more now, how vital project support can be for people, just from getting to point A to point B. And, again, this could be people that are very, very deep into the Drupal world that just need a nudge, need a perspective, on a tool or a methodology. And, that is essentially becomes invaluable. It could, ward off a tailspin that could go from hours to days, right, in really just a few minutes of interaction. So that's, I think, incredible. And due to the power of technology, as I said, way back in the day when I thought, wow, we could replace paper. That to me is on par with that type of real-time advice, in the community of unified communications, and how we can leverage that for various things such as this. And hey, I think that I've covered most of this stuff here, right? Really can get you over the hump. I don't know what happened there, guys. Sorry. My mouse. Is that funny? As I say, really finding the right community is critical. And having I remember when I was first learning how to work with the web, working for different folks, it was very early, so it was like they'd let anybody who was like, yeah, I know how to do that, show up and try to help, advance the goals of, government, let's say, having web presence throughout their organization. It was pretty much just like, get this out there, make it happen. And so, I remember that the folks standing over my shoulder who were a little bit ahead of me, really made my job possible, and, well, at least absolutely far more simple than it otherwise would have been without them. And this was like way before Google and stuff. So we didn't have that. We had to rely on, more of our folks around us. This is the only time I feel good about talking about being old. I think, it's like, wow, back then before Google. So anyway, getting started, right? I think it's about plugging in to resources that can help, whether local folks that mentor others, do you have a local Drupal organization? Today, you can get involved in just about any Drupal organization, regional Drupal organization that you'd like. And, folks, it's probably wise to choose something at least within commuting distance of your location. But, I know I'm having a lot of fun helping out with, like, New York City Drupal Camp, my former home, even though I'm across the country. And so doing that, really, I think getting started and not only trying to see who's showing up that might benefit from some mentoring, but also, trying to organize within that structure some other folks that might offer some mentoring, and again, try to initiate some projects. Those folks all have websites that need attention and help and volunteering, and there's really no better place to experience something new and, avoid the fear of failure to some extent. They're also, professional developers, so normally won't, provide a structure. There'll be hopefully, a separate environment from production, so we won't be out there, causing ourselves more stress than we are growth in our craft. And so I think that a lot of that kind of stuff, is important to get out there and get started, and just try to avail yourself to opportunities, because no matter what, I can tell you, everything from code.org, down in the 4th and 5th grade. I have children, and I had the impetus to want to do that. And, when I got there to see, what like 12-year-olds do with Python, I was just blown away, so I think that it's really something that you can look at. And that's obviously just one example. I mean, they're really just, and these are not, necessarily like gifted people, really, they're just students that are, being the right things are being put in front of them, and they have curiosity to follow them and test that craft and build confidence, right? And again, mentors really are the key to that. And you generally will not find that kicking around your average elementary school. So, kind of getting involved and taking a second and being like, hey, I could squeeze in that extra few hours of, freelance work and make $150 or whatever it is, $300, or I could go down to school and, see if I could help out and, making sense here. Or one of the other possibilities, as I mentioned, camps and events and, even local contributors running their own business doing the same. So as far as, obviously we've talked a lot about what's the benefits to the mentee. Really it's about getting out there and testing technical as well as soft skills. And if you push yourself out there and you kind of overcome the fear, because really that's not going to serve you in any way at all, right? You know what I mean? Just don't be afraid to fail is really a really critical watchword, watch phrase that everyone new to the fold, and even many folks, again, decade in or more, shift like Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, major paradigm shift in a number of areas. This can be very, very daunting to people that are, set in their skills and confident in what they do. And, oh, by the way, now you're whatever it is, I don't know, mid 40s, et cetera, and, need to effectively relearn 70% of what you do. This can be, a head crushing reality for some, and something that they really just can't get past. So, I've definitely been in contact with and helped a lot of different people in that boat. And, it's really about a crossroads, right? That we all have to go through over different periods of our career. What is it that we love? What is it that we are good at? Is it this, or is there another element of what we do here, that could still benefit the group, right? Those that show up to deliver on digital projects. So we can, I'm just kind of refer to them blanketly as a group, but there are many roles, right? It doesn't always have to be, I'm a coder to bring value to the delivery of a successful project. So I think that it's about kind of identifying your skills, avoiding negative thinking, really not being afraid to fail. I mean, that's what growth is all about. I mean, you really just have to get out there, fail. Hey, don't be surprised if you get fired a few times. This is an extremely cutthroat world, that is very nuts and bolts. I will definitely say that one of the main reasons that I took up mentoring and talent incubation was not only the sheer lack of talent in this world, in the marketplace for Drupal, but also due to the fact that I would see commonly, even when I started out myself, that, if you weren't this and you didn't have just that, and you had a skill gap that you needed to, fill it, maybe the project pace would allow for that, right? If you were, say, 80% of the way there, but many times it wouldn't, and you would be cut. And that's that, right? Really, there's nothing, I mean, I've had apologies, you name it. And it's really just something that we have to understand, that are the dynamics of this business. It isn't a personal thing. It's about, that thick skin, if you will, to understand, what is the objective? It's not personal. Where do I fit or do I not fit? And then we kind of go from there, as far as our personal relationships. But, really it is very much a business that's aimed at achieving a goal. And, we are the cogs in that wheel that make that goal happen. And either we are a part of the system that is working or not. And that may be very subjective depending on various things that sometimes don't even have anything to do with technology. So, I think that it's just about kind of having a positive attitude, learning, taking the good from any experience, not, just the ones that was like, oh my gosh, you did such a great job. We finished under budget. It's, you're the best thing since sliced bread. That isn't always going to happen, right? And that should not be discouraging for people because, I analogize this business to being a mechanic often or a builder. And, not every house is going to go up easily. Not every car is going to come in and fit the pattern that we hope, or, have the bugs that, we saw on the last. So it's really, it's something that takes an incredible adaptive ability. And that is not easy. As I say, an athletic event is really something that it feels like when you're at a high performing level and, big budget projects, there's a lot of pressure. So, don't forget to make sure that you're keeping your work-life balance in check and, keep that top of mind. I would say, as far as getting started as a mentee, I've covered some of this, just get out there, share your challenges. We've had people come in in the community for Esteemed and on Slack, and they're just like, wow, Drupal is really a very exclusive world. I've been working as a developer for 4 or 5 years. I've had JavaScript experience, this and that, but I'm not getting a foot in with Drupal. What can I do? And so I think that, that put a spotlight on people like that, for us, people that go on LinkedIn. Hey, I lost my contract. I need a new one. Hey, at first you're like, wow, that's really humble to be able to, or even maybe desperate, to do that. But on the other hand, I can tell you it works because, it will hit home with people and they will take notice to that courage and, the shamelessness to say, look, I need some help here and I have value. And, I can tell you that particular individual, we took under our wing and we put on a project and we said, this isn't going to be a problem for you. You can do it. And they were scared, at first, and then, had the orientation with, this is a front end position with the Drupal theming system. And, right after that, it was like, hey, this is fine. This is no problem. I don't know what I'm worried about in the first place. And so, I think that that's a lot of this, you're seeing the challenges, you're looking at, what is that I need to do? Get involved. Maybe I need to recommunicate some things or better communicate some things on my resume. Participate, be around so people know who you are, right? I mean, that is it. If you're not around, no one knows who you are and you will not avail yourself to any opportunities. So, this is important to participate, volunteer. If you have family and you're getting involved in a new area of career, let them know, this is going to take my time. I may not get paid. I have to pay my dues, et cetera. And this, again, really often has nothing to do with age. It really is just about your stage of experience and along the continuum. I would say that, my senior partners and I are always mentoring one another. It's something where you have a skill set and often look for people that complement you, to be able to do things better than you can in a specific area. And, that's something that is a lifelong pursuit for me. I mean, I know other people are, they kind of can operate on a lone wolf type of status and they like that. Yet then those same people for some reason are often under some other guise, asking for this exact similar type of support, right? And I find that just funny, right? Because people want to label things certain different things, so that they feel it fits into their box as to, what they believe and who they are. But ultimately, I feel personally after, I don't know, near 29 years in business and digital careers that, everybody needs partners, everybody needs mentors and a support system to turn around and, look over their shoulder one way or another and say, what do you think? Am I on point here or what? And that will help, triage some issues one way or another and is, ultimately a flywheel of benefit, for each of those participants. Well, I think that's about getting in and figuring out what we can all work on, right? What is collaborative? And certainly Drupal.org provides an enormous opportunity for us there, right? I mean, it's an amazing thing, and something that, truly, when we talk about inspiration, as far as like between people, it for me was never difficult, because I was just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Can you imagine what this is awesome, right? Compared to, the .NET paradigm, and, of old anyway, and, something that is a non-modular paradigm where people do not leverage one another's work on, a common pattern. That is darkness in my mind, and Drupal and its modular nature, and, many other open source projects like it, are light. And so, to me, like being over on the light, and working for the good side of the force was always ultimately amazing and inspiring. And, really, I can't imagine anyone not being excited about doing it and getting involved. And so, I think that that's where it comes down to, is really just, getting out there, putting yourself out, not being afraid, having imposter syndrome as a more senior individual. I mean, we're all failing and making mistakes all the time, and it is not a big deal. It's just really about not worrying about that and trying to be as good as we can. There's a phrase out there, good is good enough. And I would tell you that is definitely something that's real in the Drupal world specifically, where, we want to find people that are good at what they do, show up, have a positive attitude, right? And if all these things are good, it doesn't necessarily matter if they're, the best person you've ever seen do a migration in, the fastest period or something to that effect, whatever material operation that you can say, oh my gosh, that's something, really the all-arounder, somebody that brings a balanced skill set is going to be appreciated, on a more common basis. We certainly are a wonderful source for mentoring in Drupal, WordPress, JavaScript, cloud, security. There's a various different guilds over at Esteemed that you can avail yourself to by going to our website and joining our talent network. Certainly Drupal.org this week, I know we're having a contribute day here for MidCamp. And, those are happening at regional camps all around the country, as well as certainly for DrupalCon and DrupalCon Europe. We've mentioned Drupal Easy. Mike is a fabulous resource. Doesn't necessarily have to be, a formal class relationship. He's available often. He'll just jump in and answer questions, for people, or, let them know what might be a good education source for them if it's not his. So I think that that's also, again, just a wonderful component of our community. We happen to be lucky to, to work with closely. Coding camps, I think that Drupal is awesome, and what we're here for. But I know a number of participants on this talk, as well as, many in the community, are looking towards, what's the next thing? What's decoupled Drupal looking like? How do we participate in things like React and Vue, integrate them with Drupal? Some of the static generation tools, Gatsby, et cetera, these are really important. So, Vue and React and, Node, et cetera, these all have, their own robust communities and events and so forth. So, definitely look over the wall, I suggest, and try to expand yourself beyond, your strength in Drupal. You'll benefit from that, right? That will be something that is stand out in your profile. Esteemed, we have a new app that is in development now, which is somewhat of an extension of our Slack channel, which is called Colleagues. And that is something that we are developing with Vue.js and Node on AWS as well. We originally had intended to use Drupal, but really the use case moving towards a pure JavaScript stack really decided, you know, it just started to emerge as the better choice. So that's something that appeals to you. Certainly the people that are involved are Drupal veterans, and you know, there's a number of different opportunities on our website that might be helpful to folks from a mentoring and internship perspective. Feel free, anybody who is looking for you know, opportunities in Drupal or related technologies, or you know, partnering or any of that kind of stuff, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and or email, and you know, hit us up on Instagram and all the other social stuff. We are a growing community of over 800 folks, digital professionals, split between WordPress and Drupal and other, as I mentioned, related technologies. Thanks, everybody. And if there's any questions, let me know.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of good points, you know, because I've found myself, I'm kind of between a mentor and a mentoree, you know, type of thing. But I'm feeling a little bit better as far as finally getting that position. And, you know, I tried out a couple of positions at like agencies, and what you said about is, you know, not being afraid of failing. You know, one of them, I didn't finish the 90-day probation period. And it, you know, to me, it didn't really discourage me, because it was just, it wasn't the right fit for me. And I
Right.
realized that, and that's going to happen, you know, you know, because my decision to take that job was probably a little bit rushed. And, you know, I got some pressure from them to cut short some other interviews I had, and I shouldn't have done that. So it's just like, okay. So I just went on, moved on to the next thing. So yeah, I think you had some really good points in there.
Thanks.
And like about showing up. That's one of the things, because this is something I've always done all my life. You know, I get involved, like, for example, when I was younger, I had a girlfriend, and I learned a country western dance. So I took some community, you know, classes in it, and got to know some of the people. And then I'd show up at, and there's a country western swing and dance club. So I started showing up at that, and all the lessons and stuff. And you'd show up, and people start noticing you, and they say, you know, who is this guy? And that really is. So a lot of times it is just showing up, and eventually people will notice that you're always there attending events, you know, like this. And, you know, I think that's a good way to break into the community as well.
I would agree. I think those were great points. And it hit on a couple things for me. And sometimes, you know, memories occur to me after things that people say. And I recall, you know, honestly, it's funny because I think that number one, there's no other way to learn what you did about that opportunity and finding the right fit for yourself, right? There's no other way one learns other, you know, to embrace everything happens for a reason, right? Which I think is very material in our world here, you know, especially not only our world at large, but the Drupal community. That, you know, hey, maybe I had some karma to pay some dues or whatever, you know, I use words like that, you know, over at this terrible gig where everything was done wrong, you know, according to my knowledge and history and experience and education. But, you know, they paid the bill, and that was, you know, what I needed at the time. And onto this thing that you get to call the shots and lead and, you know, whatever it might be, or bring a value as a, you know, a young person, bring a value that, you know, the latest of this, and they don't, you know, whatever the case may be. Then I would tell you the other thing that came to mind when you mentioned that, Rick, was showing up was, you know, I mean, showing up and participating. I think it's very important because, you know, I've made judgments on people, you know, and said afterwards, you know, after a camp meetup or something like that, I'm sorry, or a local meetup, be like, hey, you know, Rick, can I talk to you for a second? You know, I'm Chris, and this is what we do, and I can maybe use some people now and then, you know, and later, you know, you may find out that this person's incredibly intelligent responses to, you know, that dialogue in the meeting were totally on point, but then, you know, they actually have no idea what the heck they're doing whatsoever and do not belong in any setting like you, right? On the other hand, you know, that same person who was quiet, right, and didn't ever answer a dang thing, but then someone came over and was like, you know, hey, you should take a chance on them. And you know, they are the creator of X and et cetera, you know their reputation very well. And you're like, okay, you know, sure, you know, and then it turns out. So I that, you know, they're an incredible value. So I think that, you know, it's about encouraging quiet people sometimes, you know, to just raise their hands, and, you know, maybe they don't have to be full on presenters, you know, at events and things like that. But, you know, to as you say, participate and show up. But I do also think that adding that component of, you know, interacting to show what you know, right? I think we've all seen people that show up at, you know, Drupal events and they're like, hey, you know, I'm from marketing, you know, I don't really know anything, so don't worry about me, you know what I mean? And then there's other people that are, you know, not saying anything, and we don't know really where they land. You know, you can kind of only size them up by, you know, whatever stereotype you align them with or something like that. And so, you know, I think that overall, just as you know, you reminded us, Rick, not being afraid. You know what I mean? There's nothing to lose. Let's just talk. Let's get our thoughts out there, whether we are in command of this subject on every level or just have a random question. You know, I always appreciate those people that aren't afraid to say, I'm from marketing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what the heck half you guys are saying, but I'd like to learn here, you know?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions? Cool. Well, I really appreciate everybody showing up. Anything that anyone thinks of offline, let us know. We're very excited to be embarking on a new project that is centered around collaboration. And there's a lot of different interesting topics that we can delve into there. You know, Rick himself actually is helping us out on the machine learning front, and he's co-maintainer of a couple of Drupal modules that interweave machine learning and the recommender API as well. So interesting, cool stuff. I think Rick probably found out on this call that we're shifting from Drupal on that particular project, but that won't matter because, you know, it's certainly immaterial one way or another. And in fact, it's just JavaScript, Rick. Well, so it's easier in the end. That was our decision. In fact, we were like, wait a minute, if we just go pure JavaScript, this is going to be so much lighter and easier, you know, than it would be if we use Drupal. So, you know, it's just the way.
Actually, I've shifted, not doing the machine learning libraries and the Drupal computing modules. I started a new module, TensorFlow.js.
Yeah, you're showing me that, yeah.
So that is, and I just finished a Coursera class on TensorFlow.js, and that's where I think it's at. So that actually could work very well with the program that you're using.
I agree. You're going to do a lunch and learn as well, right? I mean, why not? We have a minute for shameless plugs. So
yes,
Matthew, you guys have that date?
Yeah, he hasn't set a date yet. So I just talked to him about the other day. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's exciting. And I will let everybody know here that we do free lunch and learns every Friday. Matthew, do you want to plug that?
Yeah, it really depends upon people's schedule and when we can get them scheduled, but we're trying to do at least 2 lunch and learns per month with 2 weeks apart of each one. So the next one we have coming up is JD Leonard talking about Pantheon and GitHub and how to work those two together on April 9th. So that should be really informative. And if you haven't already joined us on Slack, you can join us in the link below. I posted it in the chat. And you'll get more information there when you join the network, or follow us on Instagram as well, but also LinkedIn. And we post a lot of updates on LinkedIn as well, including new jobs, trending blog posts, all sorts of other good stuff there. So do give us a follow. It's valuable and we take it seriously. We don't want to give you anything on your newsfeed that we wouldn't want. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I think the one thing that you left is YouTube, where we post all the Lunch and Learn videos there.
Oh, yeah.
So Mike and Ella just did a 2-part series on DDEV, and I think that was highly valuable for folks. A lot of our community are straddled between DDEV or Lando, and this gave a thorough introduction to that alternative for Lando users. So yeah. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. Really appreciate you showing up, and anybody I can help out there. If you know somebody, that is in need of a mentor or looking to get into being one, hit us up.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.